let's chat a little about complainers. Generally, a complainer is a person who doesn't take responsibility for their own action. A complainer is someone who would always talk about why they failed instead of how to succeed. Now, there's one simple reason why it's never ever okay to complain, and that is there's always someone that has it worse than you do. Let me give that a little context. So when I think about some of the things in my life that I'd want to complain about, some of the really hard things, and then I give them any sort of real world context, they aren't that consequential. Let me get really specific. When I was 16 years old and I had to drop out of high school to get a terrible job to support my new baby, that was pretty rough. You know, that is a big enough excuse for me to justify any actions I take in my life. I know, but I couldn't do this because. To embrace that as an excuse to complain. But the truth is, that's not so bad. Dropping out of high school, like really not having much of a place to live, having no money, having a baby, being on welfare, like all those things really suck. But in the grand scheme of humanity, it's not that bad. Bear with me. I turn on my computer, I go to a news site, and the first story I read is about migrants from Myanmar that are stuck on a boat, stranded, because the Thai government won't let them into port. These are people just like you and me, and they're literally starving to death, and this is right now. I don't mean to be so extreme, but these are the things that I remind myself of anytime I want to complain or bitch about something in my life. You realize that there are people just like you and me who at this very moment are truly facing things we're lucky enough to go our entire lives without ever having to experience. Okay, let me tell one more story to back this up. One more story where like my feelings around complaining and life in general were really set straight. 3 years ago I did this project, led like a very small relief mission to the Philippines after they had been devastated by Typhoon Haiyan. This is some of the video here. That was somebody's home. People didn't have water, people didn't have food. You know, these people had nothing. Their livelihood, their life, their existence had totally been stripped away from them. And what struck me the most about the entire experience, all of my time there, was not once did anyone complain. But they had lost everything, and they didn't complain. And they all focused on one thing. They focused on change, not complaining. And because of that, I do take it personally when people complain, because the truth is, most of the time, people who complain have nothing to complain about. Who cares if I went to a meeting that doesn't start till tomorrow, and who cares if some guy locked up my bike brake cable? It really doesn't matter. If it's broken, fix it. If you don't like it, change it. And if you want something, take it. Don't complain about it. Just do something about it.
One of the people I look up to most in the world, maybe the person I look up to most in the world, tied with my dad, I know Dad, you might watch us, is my mother. And hands down, and I mean hands down, the thing that I find most intriguing about my mom, and probably one of the things that I'm most happy that she's passed on to me, is her inability almost to complain. I find it extremely attractive. I would tell you that I adore my wife for that reason. As a matter of fact, Xander is whining too much and he's only 2, and I find it unattractive. I'm very against complaining. I'm very put your head down. I'm very, don't you realize you're healthy? Like, to me, the only thing you should complain about is the unfortunate unluck of health. You know, somebody dying that you love in a car accident, or you becoming terminally ill. After that, it feels controllable. And so I really dislike complaining. I talk a lot about honey over vinegar. It's an analogy I use a lot here at VaynerMedia. I thrive on positivity, and so the way I deal with complaining is I try not to do it. I try to educate and empower people the lack of its value, I guess. I mean, I don't have a gear. There, you know, when you go on my gear, like there is no like, oh, let me go into complain zone. To me, it's assess, figure it out, and go directly back on the offense. I'm a very offensive player. Complaining is the defense.
Oftentimes people will come to me for advice on fitness, on building their businesses, in their relationships, whatever the case may be. And often the place that they're dropping the ball is in bad habits or not building productive habits. Because it's very difficult to just get up and change your life, just change the way you do things. People like to say that all the time, hey, just stop doing this or start doing that. They like to give advice, but the underlying factor is that our friend, our individual, whoever's asking the question, is not disciplined enough to actually put that thing in action, get that thing done. So the thing that I have always told my students and my clients is to start with a small win. Begin with something small. So, for example, if you want to lose weight, I often tell people just start walking every single morning. Don't worry about counting calories. Don't worry about complex workout ideas. Don't worry about anything that anyone is selling you. Just get up and walk every morning. Right? Now, it's not the walking that's actually going to make that person successful. Now, it will add to your success because getting up and walking, fresh air and exercise is going to support you in losing weight. But we all know that there's far more factors to consider. But what it will do is create the virtue of discipline, commitment, right? Commitment and discipline sort of go together. And the fact that that small win associated with getting up every single morning is under your belt, you're going to feel the courage, the confidence, and you'll have the ability to begin adding other things to your ability to grow stronger. So now that you know, it's been 60 days, 90 days, and it's like you got that pattern down pat. You get up every morning, you just walk, that's it. You don't think about it, it's become a habit. You now can use that tool of creating habits and instilling discipline with the next one, which should be a little bit more advanced. Perhaps only drink water with your meals. Don't drink any soda, don't drink any juice, just drink water. That's the next one. And then the next one becomes more complex, and the next one becomes more complex. Now, it might seem like this is tedious and slow, but I guarantee you that after 90 days of tiny wins and the revamping of your character, you will be the type of person that can get anything done at any time. And the long time perspective is going to be a successful one for you. Start small, have big wins with these little things, and then use that new version of yourself, that new character tool to attack bigger and more advanced things until you reach your goal.
Probably that's maybe the sweetest word to a kid, friends. As we get a little older and we have our friends, they become very close to us, and sometimes they become almost all-consuming. They are everything to us. I can remember as a parent, as my children got to a certain age and where they looked to me for influence, I can remember very well when I saw them beginning to go to their friends. And that's where their influence began. And that's where their influence began to increase. As a parent, that got a little scary for me because I could see I was having a little less influence and the friends were having a little bit more. Well, my parents were very wise. My parents understood that who my friends were would determine who I was going to become. Birds of a feather flock together. And in their wisdom, they decided that they wanted to know my friends and they wanted to see my friends. So therefore, they provided a lot of wonderful things in our home so we would have our friends at our house so that my parents could observe and watch the kind of kids I ran around with. And what I learned as a kid growing up is very simple. There are some friends that were positive for me, and there were some friends that were negative for me. And my determination of which friends I was going to let influence me basically determined whether I was going to have a positive or a negative life. Fortunately, because of good parental advice and guidance, I chose good friends, which really did make a difference. Because you see, friends are wonderful. They give us support, they give us strength. They're either, though, a real asset or a real liability. So I would just want to encourage you, choose your friends wisely. You don't need a lot, but you need some good ones.
Give yourself a reward of some kind for practicing the new behavior. Each time you reward yourself, you reaffirm and reinforce that behavior. Soon you begin to associate at an unconscious level the pleasure of the reward with the behavior. You set up your own force field of positive consequences that you unconsciously look forward to as a result of engaging in that behavior or habit that you've decided upon.